Thank you very much for the invitation, Steffi, and everybody here, the great team at DLD. Thanks everybody for still being here, despite it's a bit late. Here's my presentation. The crypto revolution, why we need digital decentralized cash. Can I get it on the monitor here so I don't have to look back all the time? Is that possible? Technical team, can I get it here? Is that okay? Yes, thank you very much, great. Okay, just a few words about myself. Well, I've written 2 books about this topic. Bitcoin 2 years ago, my new book about crypto coins, general market overview, but really for beginners. Really everybody can read this or give this to your parents if you already know. I do lots of films. I have this commercial film production company. We do explainer videos, promotional videos, and most of our clients are from the crypto space. So we are bitfilm. But now let's dive directly into the topic. What's the problem? The monetary system that we have is a problem. It's a huge problem. Not that many people are aware of that. Most Bitcoiners are, but everybody is not. We have a monopoly on money. The state has a monopoly on money. And monopolies are usually never good. I mean, of course, they're good for the ones who have it, but bad for everybody else. And the same is true with money. I mean, money actually is a great invention. Yeah? It makes people interact, make people trade internationally. It's a wonderful invention, and it was never a government. It was not a government invention. It appeared on the free market. People just came up with things. First, maybe cattle and shells and whatever, and then independently of each other, many people around the world found out that precious metals such as gold and silver have certain qualities that make them good money. So for thousands of years, humankind has used gold and silver as money. And as long as that, the people in power have tried to control it, have tried to manipulate it. Even the Roman emperors have diminished the amount of silver in their coins. This is always, but it was a kind of limited, yeah, because you still had to somehow fiddle with gold and silver. But with the invention of paper money, the so-called fiat money, yeah, money that only comes into existence because a central bank says this is money, and this is a very new phenomenon. This only exists in its pure form since 1971. This is nothing in human history, and it's a very bad system. It's a really damaging system. You might not hear that in a university. You might not hear that in school because people don't want you to hear that, but it is important. Well, one obvious thing, inflation. Yeah, we had this in the 1920s in Germany, because the gold standard, that was quite helpful until the First World War, was abolished to fund the First World War, because otherwise it would have been possible to fight and fund that war. So then the government just paid back all their debts by just inflating the money in Germany. But also today, in Venezuela, in Zimbabwe, we have this hyperinflation where people have to come up with stacks of cash, and every day the prices go up, which is of course crazy, especially for the poor people. I lived in Brazil in times of hyperinflation. It was okay for the rich. They could have speculated. The poor people really, really suffered. So inflation is bad, but it's not always that obvious. I mean, a relatively stable currency, the US dollar, it has also lost a lot of its purchasing power. Yeah, it's not that obvious. And when you see something on TV about the inflation rate, they don't tell you the inflation rate. Because inflation means blowing up the money supply. What they give you is how prices of a certain basket of certain products develop. And there are some products in it and some are not. Usually the products that get cheaper, that should get cheaper because of higher productivity, but they don't put real estate in it. They don't put stocks in it. All the things where the abundant money goes into, and the real inflation is kind of hidden. And for a reason. It's kind of a hidden tax because it's very good for the government to have this tool to just take away everybody's money for their own sake. And of course, the government, since 1971, they ran into a lot of debt. Why is that? I mean, of course, it's not very popular to raise taxes, whether it's for funding wars. You know, in 1971, there was the Vietnam War, so the reason why the US abolished the gold standard was to fund the Vietnam War. But also, of course, you want to, give questionable welfare benefits to people to make you more popular. I mean, that's the difficult thing about politics. You want to be popular, you want to give things to people, but from somebody else's money. And sometimes you run out of somebody else's money, so you make more and more debt. And this is, of course, a house of cards. This will collapse inevitably. I mean, it cannot go on like this. It's a growth like cancer. It's not healthy. Well, good question. I don't know. I hope not that much, because there is a solution. That's a good thing. That's what I want to talk about now. I know one aspect, the social aspect. That's something that not many people are aware of. In a system where the government has a monopoly on money through the central bank, but also through the normal banks. Also the normal banks, not many people know that. When they give a loan, it's not that they give the savings of someone to someone who needs it with an interest rate. That's not the case. They create money out of nothing by the push of a button, because the state gave the banks the privilege to do so. This is actually fraud, yeah? Because when I get a loan from the bank to buy a house, I still have to pay back that loan with interest. And if I don't do that, the bank takes my house away, although in the first place, they created the money out of nothing. I think there's something wrong with it. And this leads through an effect called the Cantillon effect, which means when you're very close to the source of money, if you can create that money, like a bank, or you're very early in that chain, you benefit from the system. When you're later in the chain, when the prices have already risen, but you still have your same low salary, it's very, very visible in countries like Venezuela now, but it also happens in Germany, just not that obvious. So there's a redistribution of wealth from the normal people, average people, working people, to the one who are close to that power, close to that source. So if you complain about the 1% and about that's unfair and the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, which is not really true, but this unfair distribution, it's not because of capitalism, quite the opposite. Because the whole idea of a monopoly of the state on money, you find that in the Communist Manifesto of Karl Marx. So we live in that strange system where everybody by now should know that socialism doesn't work, that free market is much better, and we all think we live in a free market economy. But the funny thing is that money, the lifeblood of the economy, is ruled by centralized authority, by a central bank, by like a communist thing. So that's a really absurd system. We have to get rid of that. But how to do that? Reintroduce the gold standards? I doubt this will ever happen, because the governments, of course, they like that position. They like that they can inflate the money. They can just raise, get debts without, ever having to pay them back. So this will probably not work. So, but how do you change the system, especially a very powerful system? Yeah, will you fight against the banks and the governments? There will be a tough uphill struggle. There's this very nice quote by Buckminster Fuller saying, if you want to change something, don't fight the old system, build a new one that's so much better that it renders the old one obsolete. And this is what's happening. This is what we now are in. We are in the middle of this revolution. Maybe not many people are aware of that, but we are there. Maybe we're where the internet was in the early 90s. Yeah? Maybe we are there where the mammals was when the dinosaurs were still around and there's still little rats running around. Nobody would take it serious. Like the internet in 94, yeah? Everybody would think, this is just for freaks, this is just for, whatever, porn and crime. I mean, I'm old enough, I know the prejudices. I heard exactly the same sayings about the internet back then, what I hear now about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, yeah, it's exactly the same thing. So I think, just look and see, yeah? And, well, what is the alternative to reintroducing gold as money, which is probably not possible? This is a very good book by Nobel Prize laureate Friedrich August von Hayek, one of the most prominent thinkers of the Austrian School of Economics. It's a good school. You probably haven't heard of it, but it's they made good predictions about the economic crisis. They have good theories that have proven to be true. And he wrote this book, The Denationalization of Money, in '76, and he suggested to have a free competition of currencies. So it didn't say the government should not be able to issue their whatever pounds and Deutschmarks and euros, but there would be in a true competition with other players, right? Private companies. And everybody said then, well, this will never work, that's completely utopian, how would you do that? And we have it now. Now, with a little delay, but we have it with Bitcoin, with all the cryptocurrencies, we have exactly that. So Bitcoin, when I say Bitcoin, of course, I mean all the other coins. There are hundreds of them. They've been modeled, but that was the first one. Yeah, it's still the mother of all crypto coins. The name Bitcoin means two things: a global payment system without a central authority, and it also means that token that you need to use this payment system. You might also have heard the term blockchain, which is a distributed ledger, which was invented for Bitcoin. And also technology can be used for many other cases, but I will not go into that much more. It's very important to understand that Bitcoin is decentralized, or even the highest state of distributed. That means you don't have that single point of failure. You don't have a central institution. You don't have to trust anybody. That's the whole idea. Take out the middleman. Take out any central institution that can manipulate things. You have direct payments between human and human. There's nobody you have to trust other than the laws of mathematics, and I think they're trustworthy. The Bitcoin network now is indeed the fastest, the most powerful computation network in the world, much more powerful than all the supercomputers combined. And they provide that service that before that, only the banks could provide. So we don't need the banks anymore. Sorry, banks, you might have to find another business, but it's all smart people. I think there will always be some jobs for bankers, but not printing money out of thin air. This is over. There are only 21 million Bitcoins that will ever exist. The supply is limited. There is inflation. The amount of Bitcoin is growing, but it slows down, and it's completely predictable. You know exactly how many Bitcoins will be in existence in 50 years. There's no Mario Draghi who could say, let's print some billions and billions of new euros to whatever, save the euro or save Angela Merkel, I don't know. No, there's no this deliberate, completely at will possibility to create new money. This is all in the design of the software. There's a process of mining. I will not explain that much, but this leads to the new Bitcoins that come into existence. Until 2012, there were 50 Bitcoins every 10 minutes, roundabout. Then it was half to 25. Now it's 12.5, and it goes low and low to create this kind of scarceness. And the funny thing is, although Bitcoin looks quite different than gold. It's not that shiny, you can't make a ring out of it, you think it's a completely different thing, but no, actually the qualities that made gold the money of choice of mankind for thousands of years, you find them in Bitcoin. Of course, they're not there by nature, they're there by human design. They're coded in the software, it's scarce, it's durable, divisible, all the qualities that you will find in textbooks about what are the good qualities of money. And the euro does not qualify for that, as you can see. Bitcoin does, and Bitcoin even has some, and when I say Bitcoin, I mean all the other crypto coins too, very important advantages compared to gold. It's internet compatible. Today we live in a digital age, we live in an age of globalization. We want to send money around the world, and not by horse carriage and not by whatever, transport of gold. No, it should be as easy and fast and cheap as an email, which is possible with crypto. And you cannot confiscate it. Gold was confiscated in 1933 by the US government. It's very hard to go out of a country with your wealth in a backpack with gold. I would not try that. With Bitcoin, it's very easy. You just put them on a USB stick, even on a piece of paper. You put your keys. That's the great thing about Bitcoin. And as we have seen, the supply is limited. It doesn't grow that fast. The demand is rising, and now very simple economics. What will happen to the price? It will go to the moon. Of course, there's no law that it will always stay like that. It depends on the demand. The demand has doubled like every year, and I think we're still in the very, very beginning of Bitcoin and crypto. But this is a price chart of the last 4 years. There was this peak, or people called it bubble, in November 13, where it was 2,000, and it went down for 2 years, and people thought, maybe Bitcoin is dead. That's when I published my first book. People thought I'm crazy. And now it raised to over $6,000, or nearly $6,000. Some people say it will go up to 100,000. I don't know. Bitcoin also has some problems. Read my book if you want to find out more. Maybe some other crypto coin will take over. So I don't say that's necessary Bitcoin. Maybe some other crypto coin that hasn't been invented yet, will be the one. Yeah, we can come to questions just very quickly. I mean, that was my very brief, they only gave me 15 minutes. If you want to question what I said and discuss with me, I've put up the whole thing with the mystery of money and the flaws of money. This is my first book, Beginner's Guide to Bitcoin Austrian Economics, and gave a more broader overview on how to use it and how to store them safely and what are the different coins that are out there. On my new book, Cryptocurrencies. And this is my website, aaron-koenig.com. And here's a question by the gentleman with the hat. Well, there's a ridiculous amount of energy that the data centers of the bank use, that all the bank buildings use. Sorry. The amount of energy that is used for Bitcoin, which indeed is true, but you should also take into accession to heat up a bank building, to drive your car to the bank, to have the data center of the bank. This consumes a lot more energy, a lot more than Bitcoin. So yes, okay, maybe there's too much energy. There are other coins which use less energy, but compared to the old system, there's lots of energy that we will not waste anymore when all the bankers don't have to drive the car to the bank and there's light in the bank buildings. That's also consuming energy. And what's more worthy, right? That's the question. But of course, it's a problem.